Hi, last class we were discussing about Hibernate and how to create the employee, how to delete the employee, how to update the employees. And today's class we'll see about Hibernate config XML file and what are the configurations out there and mapping that HB employee.hbm XML file and what are the mapping between the table and the Java object. So today's class we'll see, and after that we're going to see about different session methods. Hibernate configuration file contains, please write down. Hibernate configuration file contains database connection details, and the connection pool size, and show SQL command, show SQL, this one, show SQL, and HBM to DDL auto, HBM to DDL, and all the HBM files, and dialect class, Hibernate.dialect class. Connection pool size. First we'll talk about connection pool size. No, first we'll talk about driver class name, username, password, and the URL. As part of JDBC, we provide driver class, username, password, URL into the Java classes. Whereas Hibernate, we provide all the connection information like driver class, username, password, URL into the hibernate.config.xml file. This is important here. What is the property you will enter the question? What is the property you will connect with the database driver? So you should tell hibernate.connection.driver class, hibernate.connection.username, hibernate.connection.password, hibernate.connection.url. So there are many of them. Dialect contains Java data type and database data type. Dialect contains Java data type and database data type. Show SQL tag shows if it is true if it is true, we can see the Hibernate generated query in the console. You can see the Hibernate generated query in the console. If it is false, if show underscore SQL is false, it does not show the generated query in the console. Next point, HBM to DDL. If the value is create, if the value is create here, HBM DDL means don't write only this one. You should write on complete line so that you will understand in future. HBM to DDL, if the value is create, it will drop the whole table. It will drop the whole table. And it will create and it will recreate the new table. Next point, if the value is update, if the value is update and there is no table, then it creates the table and if there is a table, and if there is a table, it will do the SQL operations. Mapping tag. Anybody know all these things before?
No,
Sajid?
Chetan.
Sajid?
Go, sir.
Okay. Mapping tag. Mapping tag. See, because I'm telling some theoretical point, that's what. If you don't, please don't get bored to write the notes because that's helpful for you. Mapping tag. Each table should be mapped to a POJ object. Each table in the database should be mapped to a POJO, and the mapping tag we write in the HBM file. And the mapping tag we write in the HBM file, this mapping tag. And mapping tag we write in the HBM file. And all the HBM file entries should be given in the configurations file by using mapping tag. HBM file, Hibernate mapping file. HBM file contains this is nothing but Hibernate mapping file contains the DTD information Hibernate mapping 3.0 DTD information. And also the mapping details means what is the pojo name and what is the table name. And also it contains a class, and the class has different properties. It contains a class has different properties. Into the point of view, they'll ask in the HBM Hibernate mapping, what are the tags are available? You should tell class, database object, fetch, these are all things. Query, error, set, SQL query subclasses, union subclasses. We're not covered since everything, so just timing tell only class. There are many of them. These are the tags we can use. Okay. Oh, now they will ask again one more question. Into the point of view, they will ask what are the tags available inside the class. Inside the class we have cache, comment, meta, subselect, synchronize, tuple, and bag, array, any, component, filler, filter, ID, join subclasses, list, loader. There are many are there. These many things we are going to use as part of our only inside the class. Inside the class. Okay. Into the point of view, they can ask anything. Please consider on that. Each HBM file should contain identifier column, or ID tag, ID tag should contain primary key column in the database table. Primary key column in the database table. We'll talk about separately how to generate what is generator class and how it will work inside the Hibernate. Okay. Now, as part of Hibernate, we are using here in Hibernate employee test.java. So we are using the logic here to load the configuration, load the session factory, and transaction, right? In Hibernate, to load the configurations, first we are going to use some configuration object. Based on the configuration, we are loading the new by using new configuration. We are loading it, and based on config.configure method, we are loading the internally. By default, it will load the Hibernate configuration file. Using the configuration object, please write down. Using the configuration object, we can read the configuration file. We can read the configuration file, and we call the configure method. We call the configure method by passing a Hibernate config XML file or without passing Hibernate config XML file. Once we call config.configure method, an instance of configuration allows the application to specify properties from the Hibernate config XML file like direct, schema, URL, password, username, class name. And set of mappings of an applications, Java types of DB, SQL DB, then it will load all the data in employee. Again, what we are doing by using config.build session factory, right? Then based on the config.build session factory, we are loading the session factory data. The session factors are immutable. Session factors are what is immutable and mutable? Session factors are immutable. Session factors are immutable and do not retain any association back to the configuration. Do not retain any association back to the configuration object. If you see here, internally Hibernate configuration object, how it looks like. See, this is the Hibernate configuration class written by given king. Configuration implement C realizable. If you see, what is the method we are using here? What is the method, Suguna?
Configure.
Yes. Configure 0 parameter, right?
Yes.
So let me search that method. It is available in the class or not. There are many references. See here. Public configuration configure throws Hibernate exception. Please write down this. And internally, this configure method will call configure of parameter of Hibernate config.xml file. That's the reason we always advisable to put the same name Hibernate config.xml file. So now this method, line number 1462 method is calling by this one again here. It is executing here. So I am passing the resource name, string name. So string name, resource name is Hibernate config.xml file. Please write on this. That's it. That is enough. Section factory. The session factory, you use the Hibernate session factory to create session objects that manage connection data, caching, and mappings. Your application is responsible for mapping the session factory. Your application is responsible for mapping the session factory. You should only have one session factory unless you are using Hibernate to connect with two or more databases in the Hibernate config XML file. You should use only one session factory. We get a session from the session factory object by using session factory dot open session now we'll talk about the session. A session is nothing but a single threaded session is nothing but a single threaded short-lived object representing a connection between the application and persistent store. And the connection session object, perhaps a JDBC connection, factory for transactions. For each client request, it creates a session object.
Selection of
The session object, perhaps a JDBC connection factory for transaction. For each client request, create a session object and destroy the task. By using session.close method. To open the session by using the open session method from the session factory and close the session by using session.close. Transaction. Session.begin transaction will get the transaction object. We can control the transaction by using transaction.commit or and transaction.rollback. Generator class. There are some predefined generator classes are available here in Hibernate. All the generator classes are implementing. If you see here, Very, very important concept. All the generator class are implementing identifier generate interface. Identifier generator interface. Please write down. Identifier generator interface. Assigned. This is the generator class here. Public class assign extends object implements identifier generator interface and configurable. I can use assign here, right? First we'll talk about assign. What is assigned? Please consider, guys. Very important. In Hibernate, we use a tag generator class called assign. This internally, there is a class called as, please write down. There is a class called as assign, which extends an object and implements identify generator. If you use assigned as part of a generator class, the identifier, the ID tag, the identifier will assign the object before session.save method is called. Before session.save method is called. This is the default strategy if no generator tag is provided as part of the project. This is the default strategy if no generator element is specified. These scenarios, if you are developing like this application, if you are using assigned as part of Hibernate, the generator class assigned here, then you should provide complete code like this. Can someone tell me what you are doing here? Please take this one and tell me what you are doing here. Quickly. Creating the object and storing the object into the session, right? By using save method, right?
Yes.
What is the confusion, Suguna? Straight away, right? Employee,
Yes.
employee dot set ID, set name, set job, and this is not required. This is very important inside basic concept. This is inside. I'm going more inside because you guys should understand the internal behavior. I cannot tell hello or hibernate because I'm telling very deep inside. Please concentrate, guys. Okay. So here employee could new employee dot set ID, set name, set salary, set job. I'm saving the employee by using session object. Okay. Here also I'm creating employee object and I'm just using set name, set salary, set job. We are not using set ID, right? If I use assigned, that means what is the meaning of assigned? We no need to provide any generated class, any generated item, any generated tag in the Hibernate mapping ID tag. So if I won't provide, I must provide here. I must provide the primary key here, set ID. Must, this is must. If you won't provide this one and try to save the data, it will throw the exception called as identified generated exception. This area it will throw the error. Write down, please write down. Identifier generation exception. When identify generate exception will come, Rohit?
When we won't use assign.
Yeah, what will happen if I want to? What will happen if I use assigned? No. Sorry, your answer is wrong. When identify generate exception will come?
When the primary key is not used.
What is the meaning of primary key is not used? When employee dot set ID, it is not set and the data in the HVM file. If I won't provide the generator class, if I provide generator class is equal to assigned, and here employee dot set ID not set as part of employee and try to save the data, we will get identified generation exception. Hibernate will throw an exception called identifier generation exception because before calling the save method, we need to set employee name, set employee ID, set ID. You guys should take this concept. Okay. Next concept. If I use sequence, generate class sequence. You know what is sequence? Shajar, can you tell me what is sequence in Oracle? Hello? Shajar? Hello? Dharani, can you mute? Can you tell me, Dharani, what is sequence in Oracle?
It is a database object.
Okay. Sequence uses in DB or DB2, Oracle, and PostgreSQL. If I use sequence keyword in the Oracle or anywhere timing Oracle to generate a number, and the generated number will be stored in the set ID, employer set ID. Set ID. Saja? Hello? MySQL does not support sequence since we are going to use inside generator class, we are going to use a param tag. Inside the param tag, I am going to write sequence. Please write down. the value will be like this. Interview question: how to create a sequences in Oracle and MySQL in MySQL? Interview question, very important concept. Sequence generator is a generator class for in Hibernate. Sequence generator, public class sequence generator, please write down. Extends object, implement, persistent identifier generator. Someone asked how, like this is the last questions. That's scenarios you should go and explain. Hey guy, this is the way internally sequence if you use internally there is a class called as sequence generator. It extends object class and implement persistent identifier generator. A persistent identifier generator, it implements identifier generator. So it extends identifier generator. Here inside the basic logic where we are going to there is a method. The method, yeah, there are some behavior inside this class like configure method, generate method. So SQL create strings. By using these all methods, by one of the methods we are going to generate the sequences. Like this you should tell answer. Next point. Sajad? Hello? Okay. How to create your own user-defined generator classes? Into the question. How to create user-defined generator classes? Okay. Next concept. Now, identity. What is that? HTML XML file. You should write down. Somebody will ask how to use sequences in Oracle, MySQL Oracle differences like this. Identity. You wrote this concept for MySQL. We are going like this. You wrote this one, this line. Everybody, Rohit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have it.
Now we are going to talk about identity. Identity supports identity column in DB2 MySQL, DB2 MySQL MySQL, and MS SQL Server, Sybase, and so on. The returned value, the returned identifier is of type long, short, or int. Oracle does not support identity columns. Databases supports identity columns and it returns a number. It returns a number and it will be stored in the employee table. It will be stored in the employee table. If you are using Oracle, if you are using MySQL, then only we are going to use identity. In Oracle, it doesn't support. Hilo. 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 Hilo uses Hilo uses high/low algorithm to efficiently generate identifiers of type long, short, int given a table and column. The Hilo algorithm supports or generates identifiers that are unique only for the particular databases. There is a class called as table Hilo algorithm. Table Hilo generator. Please take this. Public class table Hilo generator extends table generator. This table generator implements persistent identifier generator. This persistent identifier generator it extends identifier generator. At the end of the day, the identifier generator is the super interface. There is a class called as public class table Hilo generator. Generates the class for Hilo algorithm. Native. Native picks or identify, sequence, Hilo depending upon the capabilities of the underlying database. Depending upon the capabilities of the underlying database. If you are connecting to Oracle, if I use native here, if you are working with Oracle, it will select the sequence and generator class is sequence generator. And if you are connected with MySQL, it will select identity, and generator class is identity generator. When should we have to use native generator class? So if you are using Oracle, it will generate out. It will internally it will generate. It will call the sequence generator class and generate the sequences. And if you are using MySQL, internally it will call the identifier generator. Now, when should we have to use native? Oracle does not support identity. No, it's okay. Try to find out the answer. When should we have to use native? There is one more called as increment. Increment generator identifies of type long, short, int. There is a class internally which uses to generate increment called as increment generator. Increment generator. Please write on this. Please write down. There is one more called Squeaky Hello. Squeaky Hello. Squeaky Hello. Squeaky Hello uses a high-low algorithm to efficiently generate identifiers of type long, short, int. For this also there is a separate class called as CQ Hilo generator. See here, sequence Hilo generator. Please take this. It internally uses sequence Hilo generator. It generates a sequence by using CQ Hilo generator ID generator. There is one more concept called as here UUID. UUID uses, if I am writing this one means if you don't write this one, you should take the complete line. UUID uses a 128-bit UUID algorithm. UUID uses a 128-bit UUID algorithm to generate identifiers of type string. There is a class to generate UUID is called as UUID hex generator. UUID hex generator. Can someone mute Dharani?
Okay.
UUID hex generator. Please reasons. Next one is GUID. GUID. And I don't want to tell about this one more. Leave it. This is the concept called GUID. Next one is select. Very important. The select retrieves a primary key assigned by a database trigger by selecting the row by some unique key, and retrieving the primary key value. Next one, foreign. Foreign uses the identifier of another associated object. Usually we should use this foreign into the relationships like one-to-one primary key association. Working with subtype, next concept. And states. Session methods. These three concepts we will see tomorrow's class. Working with subtypes, session methods, and hybrid states. I am giving the assignment to you guys.